Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the College Baseball Show brought to you by Just Baseball Media. I have no Mark here with me today. He's at the ABCA convention, but I am lucky to be joined by an incredible guest for another edition of our Coach's Corner, Edwin Thompson, head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas. Coach, how are you doing today?
Man, Jared, doing awesome. It's a beautiful day here in DC. It's 55, 60 degrees. I don't even know. But no, all is well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, excited to have you on. As you know, I've been out at the Georgetown games quite a bit over the last few years. Before we kind of get into the season, just share a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you kind of got to where you are today.
Yeah, I think if I look back at my journey, I'm so fortunate to have the different stops that I have. And I always joke, I have probably one of the most unique paths to college baseball as a head coach. I started off coaching high school baseball. Before that, I did middle school basketball, JV. That was my first actual job. I coached high school football, girls basketball, high school boys basketball, AAU. And then, I got into college, at a young age of 24 at University of Maine at Farmington, small Division III school in Maine, and about 10 minutes from where I grew up. And so it was really a blessing. The head coach, Coach Dick Meter, was legendary Hall of Fame coach, allowed me to really grow. And, took a chance on me. And then from there, I actually took a football job at Bates College. I was the running backs coach for about 4 months. And while I was there, the baseball coach left, and the role was a baseball football job. And so I was kind of there and fortunate to actually get the job. And so I was a football coach for 2 years, a college football coach, full running backs, special teams, scout team coordinator, all these different things. And really taught me a lot about the organization of how to be a head coach and how to run practice. And then I was obviously, and back then the NESCAC, we had no fall baseball. So my other assignment was, you coach football in the fall and you coach baseball in the spring. And so, I was there for 2 years, and then I got a chance to go to Duke University, and we set a school record of wins at Bates. And then we went to Duke. I was there for 2 years, did a lot of different things, was fortunate there. And then I went down to Georgia State for 3 years. Was the pitching coach there, recruiting coordinator, and then I got my first head job at Division I at Eastern Kentucky in 2015, and so was there for 5, and then right during the middle of COVID, or I guess end of COVID, or 2020 September, Georgetown, hired me. So I was here. This is going into my 6th season, so that's kind of unique. Get hired in September. I don't meet my team until March 20th or so, something like that, because we were all remote and we're all over the country doing Zooms. And so I come in, and we had about 7 days of practice until we had to go play VCU, who was a regional team. And then we played UConn the first, again, no fall practice, no preseason, just jumping in the middle of the season. So yeah, this is going into my 6th season. So it's my 5th fall. So really, really excited to it's a unique path, I would say, but it's been one it's been fun every step of the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really love hearing like everybody's different journey, especially when we do these coaches corners, because everybody's kind of got that unique path to getting to the head coaching job or to getting to where they are today. So I always love to hear that, and it's awesome to kind of hear your story as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about just the Georgetown program overall, right? Since you've taken over, back in 2023, you all had a 30-win season. In 2024, you had a really good season as well. You've kind of really built a winning culture at Georgetown. So for you, kind of what has gone into that process over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think in 21, it was 34 years in a row of consecutive losing seasons. Mm-hmm. And so we really decided to change that, and we held them to a standard that we wanted to win that first year. Again, coming off of Zoom calls and all those, it was just kind of, we laid the foundation of what we wanted to do as far as how we operated and what our expectations were. We wanted to compete, and that was the most important part of our, I guess, changeover, was just we competed in bowling, mini golf, our throwing programs. That first year and a half, which is still part of who we are, just our competitive mindset. And so I think that year, and then 22, we were able to kind of break through, and we won 32 games, set a school record of wins. Our first full fall, we probably had about 54 players that first fall, and it was like, because we had no rules as far as roster restrictions at the time with COVID, and we're like, come on in. And that group really set a foundation for us moving forward, and got a chance to make a playoff run. We beat UConn. We had to win 2 out. They were 14th in the country. We had to win 2 out of 3 at home our last weekend, never been done, all these different things. And we just kept believing in each other. And so each year we built on it. And I think in 23, we won our first playoff game in the history of the Big East. In 24, we're in a championship game against St. John's and probably a win or two away from the regional and from at large because we're at, high RPI as well. So it's just kind of been a very special process and seeing the steps we've taken. But it's just kind of, if we have good coaches and great administration to support that, and the players ultimately have to buy in. But I always felt that being a fan of, Georgetown as a whole, I was like, we can get players, we can get them to develop, and we have a unique situation where our field's off campus, but we never let that stop us from, at some point I tell our kids, you're gonna have to go to work, you have a commute on some capacity for the most part. So it's all it is, just going to the commute to the field. So it's something we just kind of embraced who we are, and it's such a great place in DC to recruit to. So it's been fun to see the process.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned the off-campus facility. You all play at Cap One ballpark, which is, I think, a great spot to go watch a game. I think I went to one of the games maybe against Penn State, and it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday game, and it was pretty packed just to see all the fans there. And then I went and saw you all this fall, and there was a ton of people there as well. But talk about the facilities that you all have. I know you all got a new indoor facility recently. I think in 2016 you all updated the locker room for the team. But what's kind of gone into the culmination of all that as well?
Yeah, I think, the Capital One, my first 4 years here, we played at 7 different ballparks. So when you think about that, just from a logistics standpoint, and that was when we've had some really good success. It really, it makes it, you appreciate when you get a park like Capital One, which they're doing upgrades as we speak. They're putting in a brand new video board as we speak here, starting on Monday. They put in wall padding. They're just constantly doing upgrades. That's where the Atlantic 10 host their conference tournament. So it's kind of, we're very fortunate to kind of be a partner with Capital One, and they're such good partners with us. But yeah, we finally got our indoor facility, which we hadn't had for 3 years due to some stuff on campus. We have that now. We have outdoor cages on campus. So our weight room is beautiful in Thompson Center. So we have all the pieces. It's not all in one spot. And it's kind of unique, but we just embrace that, and it's really something that we really are proud of. Some of the last 4 years we had the most wins in the history of the program, but at the same time, we've just never let anything stop us from where we want to be, and we can make excuses or make things happen. My dad always would tell me that all the time when I was younger, and that's how we instill that to our players. That everything's not in one spot. We have everything you need. So if you take care of it and discipline, which our kids are. To manage their day, they get all the work that they need to get in.
Yeah, no, I love that. I want to shift gears to the upcoming season. You had, like you mentioned, the strong 2024, kind of a little bit of a step back in 25. But just seeing you all this fall, it seems like the pitching's back. Like, it was just really impressive to see the arms that you all had on the mound. Just based on what you saw this fall, what are kind of some of your expectations kind of going into that 26 season?
Yeah, I think in 25, it happened. We lost basically 70% of our offense in our innings from that 24 runner up in the year. So we knew it would be a little bit of a downfall, and we actually had like 20 games where we were in two runs or less. We just couldn't finish, and so none of that happens. And so this year's team really was put together. Myself and my associate head coach George Capon, in a way to really focus on grabbing 3 to 4 arms that we felt can really impact us, and then 3 or 4 bats that we felt we needed to do in the graduate transfers. That's really, we don't live in the undergraduate transfer world because it's just, for us, it just does, academically it's just difficult. So but the graduate transfers we brought in, we felt, we had 6 guys in the Cape Cod League this summer, right? And so when you have that many guys in the Cape, and whether they're for 2 weeks or the whole summer, we felt coming into the fall that was going to be our strength. And what we didn't do in 25 was play defense, and that has been I'd say the point of emphasis of what we had to make sure we improve on. And so that now we have that, and then obviously now it's just to figure out the offense and figuring out what flow is going to be and who our identity is going to be, where we don't have, like we've had the last couple of years, a traditional on paper Owen Carapolati or a Jay Kide or Christian Ficca, who've Big East Player of the Years, or these pros that we've had. So we have to identify that, but our pitching and defense, I think, is going to allow us to be in a really good spot on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, one guy I want to talk about on the mound that I was really impressed with that came over from UC San Diego, Spencer Seed.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you've kind of seen from him on the mound.
Yeah, I mean, he was an all-conference player out there on the West Coast. Hybrid kind of a guy. Was a Friday night starter for them. Obviously, did some long relief, did some closing. So we're kind of seeing him as a starter right now, but that could evolve and change as the year goes along. He just really just has deception. It's like a left-handed Tim Lincecum. Like he's got that ability to kind of deception. He's got a good changeup. His secondary stuff is really good, but he has confidence, right? And I think being left-handed, is naturally is always I would say an advantage. But his ability to mix speeds and change speeds. I mean, he had a great summer in the Cape, and this fall, I mean, he pitched against Virginia, Maryland, and a lot of our inter squads, and it was really hard for him to get barreled. So it was good to see a lot of swing and miss, a lot of weak contact. So excited for him, and obviously with him and our returning, I felt Big East pitcher of the year last year was JT Rabb. Didn't happen, but I felt that he just got better.
Yeah.
His velocity's up. He's gotten going to the Cape really helped him grow. Just secondary stuff and his ability to kind of get some swing and miss stuff. So, he's been as consistent as it been. Looks really good. Obviously, we haven't started practice yet, but we feel really good about those two guys.
Yeah, no, I love it. I was going to mention JT Rabb too, because I thought he was also East pitcher of the year. I think we made him our postseason Big East pitcher of the year.
Yeah.
Just the things that he did last year were just super impressive, and overall just like a fun arm to watch as well.
Yeah, I mean, came in from Stony Brook, and obviously, Coach Capon, our pitching coach, done a great job with him, and like guys like Jake Bloss and Everett Catlett, who's playing with the Rockies, and just consistent helping guys get better. And JT's a guy from year 1 to year 2 has gotten better, and that's ultimately a lot of work that he put in. He had a great summer in the Cape. He went up there and pitched at a 2 or 3 ERA, and was like I said, he had a lot of starts and a good amount of innings up there. So just really fortunate that he's back. I thought he was going to get drafted, or he had numbers enough to get drafted, but sometimes in the day and age where a 6'7" righty at the time was 90, 92 was just a good college pitcher. But now we think he's taking the jump from the velocity standpoint. We hope that he'll have just be consistent like he's been. If he does that, we'll have a chance every Friday to get out there and compete.
Yeah, no, I love it. You kind of talked about the pitching and the defense and the emphasis there, which is great too. But on the offensive side, what are some of the improvements you've seen there? I know like a guy like Ashton Gilio was really impressive to me last year, but what are some of the steps that you've kind of taken on the offensive side, and what are some of those expectations?
Yeah, I think the defense putting guys in the right spots, right? So last year we had a guy named Connor Price, who was a catcher behind Owen Carapalati, who had to play third, who was not a third baseman until a day before the game. We're like, you're playing third. We needed his bat in the lineup. So he's now back at catching. Jeremy Sheffield would kind of move between short and third at times last year. Now is our first baseman. So again, you put guys in their spots where they're comfortable defensively, their offensive game is typically going to kind of hopefully increase. And then from there, we added some pieces of the puzzle, right? We knew we lost our middle infield to the portal. One went to Wake, one went to Cal, and they were sophomores. We thought we have them back, but at that point, you kind of have to make it work. We had Connor Peak from Holy Cross, who played on the regional team. We brought in AJ Solomon, who played at Butler, who we've seen play for the last couple of years in our league, left-handed hitting at second base. And then we brought in Brett Blair, a kid from Stanford that we had a couple of Stanford guys a couple years ago, and they recommended him as far as, hasn't got a chance to be an everyday guy, so to speak, but so far so good. He's put ourselves in a good position. And then we just added guys to return. Dylan Larkins was a freshman last year, had a really good summer in the Northwoods League. He's a sophomore. We had a guy named Ashton Seymour who had really good, finished strong last year. We probably had 5 or 6 freshmen had 50, 60 at bats, or 30, 40 to 40 plus at bats. So as a freshman, they got some really good experience. They traveled. They were part of some good things, and so just seeing those guys develop. And then we had guys like Travis Illich, who hadn't played a ton since his freshman year, where he was kind of like a platoon player. Fought some injuries the last couple of years. Now has had a really good fall. So the pieces are kind of there. How all shake out, it'll be interesting to see. But I think getting guys in the right spots, and then from a defensive standpoint, will allow them to stay calm offensively.
No, yeah, that's great. And you mentioned kind of some of the recruiting process that you all kind of approach. I have to imagine, like you mentioned, with the academics at Georgetown, it's a little bit of a different recruiting process for you. I'm sure your experience at Duke helps with that in some sense. But for you, what kind of goes into that recruiting process as you're looking for those next players to come play at Georgetown?
Yeah, we recruit about 6 to 8 high school kids a year, and then probably between 4 to 6 grad transfers a year, depending on each year. We're fortunate. A lot of guys have 2 years of eligibility. Like we have a guy named Luke Jackman from Virginia Tech who pitched a lot for them last year. He has 2 years of eligibility because he kind of graduated early, and so we have kids that kind of are attracted. Obviously, have to have good grades. But the first is what kind of people are they? I think that's always you win with people. You win with people that have a passion, that have discipline, have a work ethic, and ultimately have some skill set, right? So, what value can they add to our organization? Whether it be a two-way player, whether it be a specialized guy. So that's the first step. Is we can go watch the best players in the country, like everyone does. But then our next question is how your grades. What your transcript list look like, and do you want this, right? I tell we're always honest with our process. Like our field's off campus. We take vans every day, but we still win. We still produce guys that are professionals. We still have guys doing really great things in the baseball and competing at a high level. The Big East is a conference that, you know, last year should have been a two or at least two bid league, maybe a three bid league with Xavier and UConn. It's a really competitive league. It's a smaller league from a number standpoint, but it's really competitive week in and week out. So I think, that a balance to be able to get a high level, a top 25 degree institution in the world, and then be able to do it in DC, in a most powerful city in the world, along with good baseball. It's a really good blend. So we don't try to sell anything. We're just presenting, right?
Mhm.
We're presenting who we are, what we're about, and if you like that, great. Historically, our program hasn't been strong, but over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been really competitive regionally, nationally, and obviously in our conference. So our goals are always going to align, and hopefully we get the right people that want to be a part of what we're doing.
No, I love that kind of mindset too. And you emphasize like bringing in the right people for you with like transfer portal and the kind of roster turnover here. What goes into developing those people into the leaders on your team?
Yeah, I think it's like we all, as coaches, want to make sure if you recruit good students, I was talking to a coach the other day. If you recruit a student that has a 3.5 GPA versus a 2.5 GPA, more than likely when they get to college, maybe they're a 3.0 versus a 3.5. At least you don't have to worry about them. If you recruit captains that are, from others, other in their high schools, you have a chance for them to be leaders at some point in your program. So once you get them here, when I got here, the one thing that Georgetown baseball has had, maybe not has the most wins on the field prior to us getting here, but the environment, the culture, the leadership that was passed on, everybody was equal. You know what I mean? Where some programs like, okay, well, you're a freshman, you do all these duties. Where the seniors we had my first year, and then even the second year, really set the foundation of how we operate. And it was such a great thing to see guys, our best players, at the time, older players taking the toughest duties, whether it be lugging stuff on the road or helping out with the balls or the bats, whatever it is. So that's kind of passed down, and then we just enhance that. Each year's team is different, and we try to really create an environment that is one that we've had 4 players leave to the transfer portal over the last 5 years. That's it,
Yeah.
And if you think about that in college baseball, so we've been pretty consistent. People don't want to leave the degree. People don't want to leave a good environment, and then when we have those, we really kind of stay consistent to what a true college baseball experience, student athlete experience can look like. We're not a major market or, bigger situation, but we have everything you need to be successful and thrive. And we just kind of embrace that in the process and helping our guys develop that leadership skills that in our environment to pass down to the next group of guys that come in, whether you're a grad student or you're a freshman, our guys that have been in the program, pass down, and we obviously enhance that each year with some leadership stuff that we do.
Yeah, no, I love that. And next question I kind of wanted to dive into too is kind of the player development on the field for you. You mentioned about how Georgetown is constantly getting big people to the big leagues, and so you look at the just recently you had Jake Bloss, who's already made his major league debut, Everett Catlett, Owen Carapalati, and then JT Rabb's probably another guy who's going to eventually go pro here too. What's gone into that player development and just kind of the success that you all have had in that realm?
Yeah, I think at the mid-major level, we're not getting the top on paper 5-star recruit, if you will, relative, conference football. But they get players that want to get better. You want to get better, and we want that in the process in our recruiting. We ask them, do you want to get better? Do you want to be coached? And then I think the system is set up to where we have some success, and then Coach Capon does a great job, and we feel we do a good job from the offensive side of how we approach guys just getting better. Summer ball is a big part of ours. We're not scared to send our guys out to go play summer ball because Owen Carabalati was in the Cape Cod as a sophomore or junior. He could have left. Like, we want our guys to go out and compete at the highest level. And I think we've had 21 guys in the Cape since 21. So like it's a thing for us to get guys at the highest level. And then just once they get here, we work on the limitations and we challenge them and push them to get better. And I think the thing about Georgetown is the kids are so amazing because they're working towards this world-class degree, and they're thriving in that world, and they're competing against some of the best and brightest students in the world. And then they come over to the baseball field. It's almost like it's normal for them to work hard because that's kind of their nature. And then if you do, and then something that they love outside of the academic world, they can kind of really, see that growth. And that's all we want. We want guys like, that's the thing, as our freshmen, our sophomores this year are better than they were when they got here. And so if we can keep them in our program over the course of, a 2 to 3 year period, you see the growth, and there's nothing secret about it. You got to work hard. And the thing with us is, I would say we probably have to be very efficient with time.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like when we drive out there, it's 15, 20 minutes. In DC, traffic could be 30. So we have to be aware of that. So when they get there, it's like we start right away. We're very efficient with our time, and we get them back. And so during that, there's not a lot of fluff, meaning that like you're not sitting around doing it's really constant movement. And so I think that plays into our philosophy. But again, it goes back to when I was coaching high school football or college football, and it was just by periods. And football practice are so organized, and it's like the horn goes off and it's the next drill. And so I've always taken that approach from a coaching standpoint that allows our players to really get better over time.
No, I love it. Last question I have for you before we dive in a couple of fun ones here to wrap up is for you, just the DMV culture, the DC culture. Just from being here, I mean, I think it's a special area to be in, but what has that meant to you, not just for your program, but yourself personally?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in Fairfax, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Maine, and so, but I always would come back to DC, and in 94, 95, when Allen Iverson was at basketball, I went to USA Arena to watch him play basketball. I've always been a Georgetown basketball fan, let alone the area. My brother lives over in Fairfax, and he's able to I've always been back down in this area. I played summer baseball here. I went to, Howard University before they dropped baseball. I transferred to University of Maryland, so I played there. And so this has kind of been a really special part of my life. And it's so competitive in a great way. I mean, you got like, I don't know how many sports teams we have, every sport you can imagine, men and female, which is great. And, the Nats are right down the corner, and Orioles around, that way. So you see constantly, high level stuff. But I think what makes it special from a college baseball standpoint, you look at our last couple of years, you had Maryland hosted a regional. You had George Mason last year, had a great year.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some success from a competitive standpoint. George Washington. I mean, you in this area from just a college baseball, it's fun. Midweek games are competitive. Obviously we play UVA this fall, and we play them during the season as well. So, just being in a really competitive environment in region, it makes it always a fun opportunity every time we go out there and compete.
Yeah, I tell our draft guys and other college guys all the time that this area is so underrated for baseball. It's not even funny. Like, there's so much talent in this area.
And the high school talent. I mean, the high school talent in this area, we got three high school kids coming in our 26 class. Would we have gotten those guys 3 years ago? Probably not. But when you have a guy that made the big leagues, in 23 or 24 with the Jake Bloss, and you had guys, signing or getting drafted the last 3-4 years, people are like, okay, this is good, and so changing the narrative is always a fun part of it. But there's such great high school coaches in the area. They do such a good job, and it's just fun to watch. And we're fortunate to be in such a talent rich from a competitive standpoint in all sports in this region.
Yeah, I mean, you have guys like James Wood, Matt Mervis, who are all from this area, so it's just awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Want to jump into a couple fun questions here as we wrap up. I got the first
Sure.
one I have for you is, so when you're not coaching, what are the go-to passions away from the field?
People don't know this about me. I grew up, my family, we owned a roller rink in
Okay.
Maine. And where I live, and there's a outdoor roller rink. So I get up there and I still have my hockey, my rollerblades. And if I come home from practice and have some time, I'll just kind of put my headphones on and just zone out for a little bit. So I like doing that. I like anything active. I like shooting hoops, but really just most important is spending time with my family.
Mm.
That's been, I have a daughter and my wife, and we're gone a lot. So when I get to have a chance, it's just, to be with them. I love collecting baseball cards too. It's a fun, like, side hobby I've done. But yeah, I think just being time with the family, being still, and then just, yeah, when I have a chance to go out and I have some free time, my time, I try to go out to the rink and do some hockey, just some shooting around for fun.
I love it. Next question I got for you. So if it wasn't coaching baseball, like what would the career path be for you?
I actually, again, in learning some things about me today, I had a chance to be an actor, like on back in Nickelodeon was kind of coming up, like as a
Yeah.
child actor. So like that was one thing that I always felt very passionate about. So I think I had a choice to make, at a younger age, like do I go all in to go, move out there and do all that stuff. That wasn't for me, but I think I'd always like to be an actor. I was a teacher
Mm.
I did special education for 4 years. I was at, a lot of different roles, but that was one of my things I did middle school. So I would say teaching. It's obviously, stereotypical, but like that's when I forgot I was a middle school track coach. So I was a middle school track coach and a college baseball coach in the same year. So we have track practice from like 2:30 to 3:30 with the kids at the school. I drive 30 minutes and go coach college baseball from 4 to 6 or whatever. So that's when I was single, so I had a lot of time. But yeah, I would say teaching or acting would probably be the two things that I would be involved in.
Yeah, we had Skylar Mead from Troy on. He
Yeah.
mentioned that he was going to be an actor, but then he also said he was going to wanted to be a storm chaser, and I was like,
Okay.
that tracks. Last one I got for you, just to kind of wrap everything up here. So, um, sorry, I'm losing track of the questions in my head here. But yeah, I guess for you, if you could go back in history and coach any team, past or present, doesn't matter the sport, like what team would be like a dream coaching job for you?
Yeah, man. Well, you just said it. I would do the 92 Dream Team. I
Yeah.
mean, if we're just talking about going out and coaching, I would love to have been in that world, in that environment, in those locker rooms and watch those. I mean, I watched them live. I'm old enough to watch them, but I remember those games. But like to be with the greats like that, I think I could coach that team. I'm a big basketball fan, a huge college basketball fan. I've always been. I used to coach, like I coach high school
Mhm.
basketball for an AAU. I did all that stuff. So yeah, I think that would be my team that I would go coach, and I think I could. I think even I could probably lead them to a gold medal that year.
I love it. Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us on the College Baseball Show. We know all you coaches have such a busy schedule, and we're super appreciative to have the opportunity to kind of share your stories, share more about your program. And it's just an awesome opportunity for us to get to do this. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thanks for all that you do for college baseball, especially the mid majors, and just everyone, all that you guys do, and all the content is really awesome. So we appreciate that, and hopefully see you at the park at some point this spring.
Yeah, hoping to be out there. Thanks again, Coach.
All right, thank you.